Bude Harbour and Canal Company. They built the canal, built the breakwater, they changed the route of the river and all that stuff, including the two basins. The wall that runs around the brasserie, that's the boundary of the wharf area of the land owned by the Bude Harbour and Canal Company. They had a set of bylaws to run the canal, to enforce procedures and to create offences for people who misuse the canal. Things to do with interfering with the paddles on the locks, you know, interfering with the gates, causing damage was dealt with as a felony, and you would have gone to an assize court and probably got transported to the colonies. Some of the penalties were £10. Well, £10 in 1820 to an ordinary man, you probably go to prison because you couldn't pay or whatever, you know. But it covered all sorts of things. It laid conditions down about masters of ships coming in within, I think it was 48 hours of arriving in Bude. They had to do two things. One was to provide the company secretary, Canal Company secretary, with a list of what they brought in, and also to provide HM Customs with a list of what they brought in. That was obviously to make sure that they paid the proper dues for using the facilities of coming in, and was it £10 fine for nude bathing in the harbour. But it was the beginning of the time when people were beginning to come to Bude. You see, you know, they're beginning to realise, weren't they, 1820s Georgian sea bathing might be good for you, and they would go in with all their clothes on. It was mainly, like I say, buildings to do with merchants who would be dealing in the sand, in coal, you know, grain, all that stuff. That's where that operated from. There would be, you know, would have been a company office there to deal with all that stuff. All the stuff that the town and the area needed came by sea, because in the early part the roads were rubbish. And this is Upper Basin, and they call it Higher Wharf, not Upper.
Yeah, that's cool.
But this basin was a private basin for Sir Thomas Knight Ackland, who was one of the main shareholders. It was built on his land. You know, he would have his own ships, or would be able to commission ships to work for him, because the building there known as Granary Court was his own private warehouse. Opened obviously, but over time it did gradually get developed, and one of the more important things would have been Stapleton Shipyard, which was located on the area now where the scouts in the town band, and they used to build boats, ketches, schooners, things like that. But they were launched sideways, and not, you know, normally when you have a boat and they go lengthways, but no, they would slide them in sideways, and then they would be fitted out, and when they were ready, you know, so they would sail down there, swing bridge would move, and off they would go. There used to be a 3-storey cob building, which was a grain mill, where they would provide animal feeds and all sorts of stuff, you know, and they operated from there. And they also had the building where the brasserie is now as well, which was a coal merchant's yard, and they used to have an office in the town as well. In the area where Hanover House is, that would have been Petherick's mill, right? And they operated there up until about the 1970s, 80s, something like that. Then it closed down as that. It was then used by Adventure International when they started up. It would then lay empty for a while, and a day or so before it was due to be listed as a listed building, it pulled down. When the shipyard operated, which was from about 1850s, 1860s to just around about the First World War period, there was also a timber yard, a timber sawmill place adjacent to that. Only by about 1920, the building, which had a steam facility, which was used for bending wood, was taken over, and the Bude Steam Laundry came into being. It had a steam whistle, which went at 8, 1, 2 and 5, I think it was. Very useful when you're running around. Didn't need a watch. If the 1 o'clock whistle went and you were more than 5 minutes from home, you were in trouble. A laundry cottage used to call Rounds Casting House, and they used to make things in cast iron. You know, they would have made things for the canal, you know, rails and wheels and, you know, all sorts of stuff, and for boats as well.